There you go. Have a crack at that. So look, my job this evening, guys, is really just to wrap this up, and I'll be brief, but I'm hoping there'll be some nugget in there that might help you or buoy you along in your pathway of life. I ask you first of all, is it a coincidence that people that are doing extraordinary things, successful things, making big contributions, living out of their skin and living a big life, is it a coincidence that they have a rich sense of identity? They know where they're going, they know who they are, they know where they've come from, they appreciate where they come from. Yep. They've effectively decided. They've decided where they want to go and they've said, I am that, I am. I am that in advance. I am that I am. If that sounds familiar, that's because it's the name of God. The name of God will get preacher on you. Apparently Moses was told, I am that I am is the name of God. Now, I'm not a religious person, not in the slightest, but I am is such a powerful two monosyllables when put together. There's power, there is gold sitting right there. I want you to imagine for a moment your ultimate life, your ultimate version of you. What does that look like? Who are you, I'm essentially asking. Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? How are you contributing? Because essentially, if you're doing great things, you are contributing. Life is about that. Yeah. And I ask you, who are you? It's a key question. Who's heard of a book and some work from a guy by the name of Maxwell Maltz? His work was called Psycho-Cybernetics. Yeah? Should all read it. Fantastic gold in them there pages. When asked the question, who are you? Maltz stipulates essentially, in a fairly big study, that you are essentially your self-image. Yeah? You are who you think you are. There's nothing other than who you believe you are. As Henry Ford said, if you believe you can, you believe you can't, you're right both ways. Now, the downside of this is that most people today have a fairly negative self-impression of who they are. They've only really delved into, the lesser part of themselves, of what they know, what they've been, and they haven't stopped to consider that there's a higher self in there. There's a genius, there's brilliance there. Yep. And this is what I am can bring you. There's another way to answer the question, who are you? And that's by looking at it from the perspective of, I am what I desire to be. Yep, that's equally as valid. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a philosopher from the 1800s, said, nature is not capricious. If one desires to be or do a given thing, that one has the capacity within, by definition, to be or do that thing. You wouldn't have the desire to be or do that thing if you didn't have the capacity. And most people don't understand this. It's almost like you've got a responsibility to go and do it if you've got that desire, because you've got an inbuilt capacity. So this is why I think that I am is such a power. It makes it even more powerful. If you can tell yourself you are something, to the exclusion of all the naysayers, the haters, the mediocre people, the herd clustering together, fearful for what might happen. If you can say I am, you can do extraordinary things. Where would Sylvester Stallone be without I am? More specifically, I am Rocky. Or I am Rocky. I am Rocky. Wherever it might go. Who knows about his life? Anyone? Extraordinary life. I'm glad so few people do. One of the most inspirational people on the planet. He was down and out, didn't, excuse my French, have a pot to piss in, had nothing but a whole heap of desire and a vision. Yeah, he was that poor at one stage that he sold his dog. If any of you have seen Rocky 1, his dog was Budkas, the American bulldog. He went down and sold Budkas for $25 so he could eat and stay warm in the winter. Yeah, he came back home. It was the saddest day in his life, blubbering into his, he's crying. He then watched a fight between Muhammad Ali and this white guy, Chuck Wepner was his name. God, do you get a whapping? He was looking like a pink cauliflower from all the goo and claret streaming out of his face. His Ali was just bashing him from pillar to post. He was like one of those inflatable things. Up and down he would go. But he didn't stay down. He kept getting up. And whilst Stallone was watching this, crystallised in his mind was, if ever there's been a metaphor for a life, there's a story in this that represents everybody's story. Not to give up, to persist. So he started writing. He wrote for 22 hours straight. When he'd finished, he put down his pens, his hand was shaking, he knew that he'd produced something. So it wasn't a full script, but it was 65% Rocky script. He went around and started shopping this around Hollywood. Straight up, he gets offered $100,000. 100 grand for somebody that hasn't got enough bucks to eat. And 1974, I can't remember it, JR, but I'm sure 100 grand went a long way in 1974. 100 grand. Anyway, he didn't take it because of I am. It didn't fill in the pieces of the puzzle of his picture. So he said, oh, I'm Rocky, I'll go away and talk to some other dudes, you know. Over the course of 3 weeks, it went 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand. It got up to 375,000 bucks. And he didn't take it. He didn't bend over. He didn't dilute his dream. He ended up taking something like 25,000 bucks and some profit share, and of course the rest is history. He became what he is. The contribution he's made to mankind is extraordinary, I think. You know what he did with the first bucks that he got out of that 25,000 bucks? Don't answer. I went down looking for my dog. I found the guy that I sold it to. Wouldn't sell it to him for 50 bucks, 100 bucks, 200 bucks, 500 bucks. He paid $15,000 and a part in the film to get back his dog. Here is a guy with stones like a bull elephant, with vision like a telescope, and with I am ringing through his veins. In my book, he deserves everything he gets and all the glory that you see him experience. He seems like a decent guy with humour and actually receptive brain. But extraordinary fella. And it's all about I am. It's the identity. The identity that he had and the belief came from this I am statement. Whether he was versing it that way or not, that's how he was operating. But it's not just about identity, it's about flow. It's about the state that you're in. You know, there's been a lot written about the flow state in the last few years, and it's typically associated with elite sport. Yeah. It's about being in this optimal state of performance arousal where things slow down, where things become easy, where Benny might be bowling 148 clicks instead of 145, and he's just flowing in like ethereal mercury to the crease and hitting a length, the seam up, and it's just all clicking. It's just all working. As a batsman, you're seeing it before time. Your feet are moving. You're creaming them out of the middle. There is nothing you can't do on a flow day. But we experience them so rarely. There's actually a great book called The Rise of Superman. It's about flow, and the athletes that experience flow most are action-adventure athletes like Travis Pastrana. He's putting his life on the line. Travis Pastrana's a motorbike risk-taker, you know. Those guys find flow because if they don't, they're going to die. So it's about flow as well. And it's not only about elite sport. If you can find flow in your daily life, you're happier, you're healthier, you got more serotonin in your bloodstream, you got cortisol going down, you're focused, you're capable, you're receptive, you're communicative, you're all these things. And you can manufacture a bit of flow with I am statements. I am statements as to what you want to be. Yeah, it might just be as simple as what state you want to be in. You know, I am serene. Or it might be, I am the highest jumper in the world. Jumping's your thing. 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to be an author and a speaker. I wasn't either of those things. I was cluttered with the rest of the dog-eat-dog, stab each other in the back, management consulting world. And I decided I'm going to be a writer and I'm going to be a speaker. And I incorporated into my daily activity some I am statements. I'm so grateful and happy now that I'm an internationally recognised author and an inspirational speaker. I'm getting towards the inspirational, but at least I get to speak. Last year, I was paid $5,000 to do a keynote speech for not even an area that is my expertise. It was preventative health. And I've been rapt to hear a bunch of what I've heard. Preventative health. The world is on a precipice. Economically, health-wise, there needs to be intervention. But I got to talk about that primarily on the basis that I told myself that's where I am. No one else is telling me that stuff. And you'll find typically that if you try to do anything extraordinary, if you listen to the vast unwashed masses, and that's not being rude, but you don't want what they got. You want to stand out. You want to be you. And in order to be you, you can't get like everybody else. You've got to be courageous enough to be yourself. So that was my little experience, and I do it every day. I undertake some rituals in the morning where I can discover flow. Now, talking flow, the greatest exponent of flow, don't put him up yet. Oh, it's gone. Jeepers. Let me build up. The greatest exponent of flow, the most charismatic guy I've ever seen in my life. I reckon this guy and Elvis Presley stand apart from the rest of the history of human beings. And you have to have seen him in action when he was young to appreciate what I'm on about. But here's a guy, you know, he was an athlete in the 60s and 70s. He was at the front of the civil rights movement with Malcolm X and with Martin Luther King. He was despised universally because of his fast mouth. And it wouldn't have surprised anybody if he was assassinated. Now he's like this Buddha-type figure, universally loved. All he dishes out is love and peace and good wishes and high fives if he could get his hand up that far. But he was extraordinary, and he's most famous for "I am the greatest." Everybody thought, what a wanker, you know. In his first title fight against a guy called Sonny Liston, no one gave him any sort of hope. Everyone was feared for his life. They thought he was going to get killed. He looked more like a track athlete, you know, willowy limbs, and he's fighting this big hulking brute. And every time he'd be on, and he's got dyslexia. He's not very well educated. Every time he gets the turn to speak, he's, "Man, I'm too fast. I'm too pretty. Champions should be pretty like me. Look at that big ugly bear. I'm so pretty I won't even get hit. I'm too fat. Last night I was reading in bed. I got up and hit the switch. Man, I was back in bed before the room was dark." He'd go on and on like this. But he'd go beyond "I am." He was a poet. And he'd crystallise his vision and put it out there for other people to get a piece of with these tapestries of word plays. And he was dyslexic. He had one poem that I like to bring myself to. If I'm ever feeling a bit bad, I say the following to myself. He's still Cassius Clay at this stage. Grand piano, Liberace's there. For those who are old enough, he's a very camp sort of pianist back in the day. I didn't hear his voice, but it might have been something like, "Cassius, do the one about you for a change." Well, it sounds like Cassius' little brother. But anyway, Cassius gives it the... "This is a legend of Cassius Clay, the most beautiful fighter in the world today. He talks a great deal, brags indeed, of a muscular punch that's incredibly speedy. The fistic world was dull and weary. With a champ like Liston, things had to be dreary. And someone with colour, someone with dash, what fight fans are running with cash. This kid fights great. He's got speed and endurance. So if you sign to fight him, increase your insurance. This kid's got a left, this kid's got a right. And if he hits you once, you're asleep for the night. And as you lie on the floor and the ref counts to 10, you pray that you won't have to fight me again. For I am the man this poem is about, the next champ of the world, there isn't a doubt. Because I'll tell you here that I know the score. Are we champ of the world in 64? If Cassius C.A.B. can pull a plough, don't ask how, hitch him up." This is a guy with belief where no one else believes in him, with such white heat belief. And this hasn't come out of anywhere. This has come out of ritualistic repetition of what he believes to himself. You know, for most of his career, he'd be putting himself right out on the edge of the thin branches, making seemingly ridiculous statements and predictions and all sorts of stuff like this. And most of it would come through. You know, to a point where the precipice was gotten over from hatred to love, and everyone shifted from this camp to this camp, realising what a force for good. I loved him because of the joy that he brought. Joy that he brought to the world. To me, it didn't matter if he was a boxer or a comedian. He happened to be in this brutish caper, though, where he seemed to be more eloquent than a president, more fun-loving than a comedian. Extraordinary guy. So out of all of that, my insistence is to share with you the need to have some sort of ritual in the morning to get yourself in state so that you give yourself the possibility to be able to be your higher self rather than your lower self. To bring your best to the table every day rather than just your mediocre self. I know there's a huge difference between my best and my mediocre in everything I do. And if you can bring the best self to your caper every day, the cumulative effects of all those bests is going to be a hell of a lot different than all the mediocre days put together, hours, weeks. So I really encourage you, in fact I implore you, to figure out what it is that you want. Figure out some I am statements that are going to start edging you towards it. The power of momentum will take you from nanometres to millimetres to centimetres to a foot. All of a sudden you're flying. You've got momentum behind you. That's how it works. So that's my piece for tonight. I'd just like to finish by having us all engage in a little bit of I am action. So if we can all just be upstanding and humour me, well, I am it up till the cows come home and then we can float home. Don't be surprised if your feet levitate from the floor. Okay, hands on your heart and say after me. I'm alive, I'm free, I'm grateful.
I'm alive, I'm free, I'm grateful.
I'm poised, I'm patient, I'm present.
I'm poised, I'm patient, I'm present.
I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm wealthy.
I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm wealthy.
Give yourselves a round of applause. It's been sensational tonight. Thank you. Absolutely, stay standing. Unless you're floating.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming along. Big thanks to everybody, to all our speakers. Terrific guys, unbelievable. Please go up to them if you're looking for a speaker or something. Promote these guys. They've done an awesome job for us tonight. Who here learned one thing?
Yep.
Two things.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Put your hand up, dude, otherwise you're staying there all night. Stand up. I am. Turn to the person next to you and say, that was friggin' great. Thanks a lot, everybody.